ladies and gentlemen. I'm not the typical host of the Cole cast, but I'm David DelaGardelle. I've been on a couple episodes now. Blessed to be here at Cole Iron Works with my friends, and I am super stoked today to have my brother from over the pond, Mr. Christopher Menges. Brother, thank you for being here.
Thanks for welcoming me.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not going to ramble who you are. I want you to explain it for yourself, but just to summarize to people, briefly, if you don't already know who this handsome stud is and the incredible work you do, I'm a huge fan of everything you do, brother, and the people you work with. It's amazing. But Christopher works at WETA Workshop, and WETA has been such an inspiring place to me growing up. And our late co-founder Andy Davis. When we first got into bladesmithing over 20 years ago, when Andy and I were just kiddos, of course, we were into Lord of the Rings well before the Lord of the Rings movies came out. But as soon as it came out, we were like, who are these people making this stuff? And, I was just telling you last night, man, it was just spiritually encouraging to realize there's fellow nerds and dorks out there who are making museum quality stuff. I want to do that. It was inspiring. And, Andy's in my path. Obviously, Andy brilliantly set up Cole Iron Works, and I still make swords today. But I don't remember when you and I connected online, but it was so cool to see that Peter, who you work with, Peter Lyons, who made all the swords for rings, that you were his apprentice, and you fight me on this, but I think you're fair to be labeled as a master swordsman.
Not remotely. No.
If anybody goes on Instagram right now and searches up Christopher Menges, you'll know that I'm right and he's wrong. So
if you say so, but
yeah. But there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Anybody viewing, and you can see the Cole Iron Press. He's been having fun here in the shop. Just super grateful that you could visit us, brother, because it's a long trek over the pond. I just love everything you're doing. And, you do amazing work with WETA, of course, and the gang there on, films that people are going to geek out when they realize you've worked on. But just in your personal life, the work you're doing solo and individual personal projects, it's just, that's, all the more inspiring to see, what you have a heart for. And
that's great to hear. Like for me, I'm one of those Lord of the Rings nerds too, right? You want to go out into the world and make a change that is inspiring to people.
Yeah.
It pays homage to literary art, all that stuff, brings it into more of the reality of what we would expect to be if we were to walk into that world. And for me, I've been in the right place at the right time for several opportunities. And one of those was to meet Richard Taylor. And eventually just moved down to New Zealand because originally I grew up in the States.
Yes.
Went to school here. I was part of a sword fighting troupe. Did stage combat and jousting shows and stuff. And that was kind of my entry into the actual crafting of blades was that direction. And then it's kind of spun into film work and
as much detail as you're diving right in, I love it. But in as much detail as you're willing to share, without nosy Cedar Lord prying too much, take us to the beginning. And even well before you connected with the gang at WETA, you were born a baby. You were,
I was born a baby. I spent the first week of my life in the hospital because I punched a bunch of holes in my lungs.
Oh no!
Moving on from that.
God,
yeah. So I've always been a creative person, and found school wildly difficult because the prescribed thing just didn't work for me until I understood that I already knew it, and it took me a long time to learn that, and all the way until I was in college, really.
Yeah.
My stepdad was a welder fabricator, and so I took that to heart and just started, that sounds like a fun direction to go. Okay. I don't want to sit in an office all day. I want to move things with my hands. So I was building stuff as a kid, just out of sticks in the woods, this is a good sword, that kind of thing. Duct tape is always your friend when you're entering any craft, right?
Yeah.
For me, though, just picking up the craft of metalwork, doing welding and fabricating, that's where I went. Kind of the last few years of school was spending a bunch of time up at the community college.
And maybe you just said, and I missed it, but at what age did you first kind of dabble with any kind of metalworking? How old were you?
I would have been 13. I think.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, started welding about then. Not well.
That's about the same time Andy and I,
Yeah.
started playing with fire, much to our mom's stress and fear.
Yeah, luckily I had someone in my life that had the tools, had the knowledge, and the safety glasses to go with them.
Nice.
But yeah, then I really just took off and went through school doing a welding fabricating degree. But then I decided to double major when I was in school with multimedia communications because I had a very keen interest in photography and graphic design and stuff like that. Just like, again, another wildly creative field, just trying to create something. I didn't ever consider myself an artist, but I was constantly doodling on schoolwork instead of doing it.
Same, yeah.
So yeah, wildly enough, I've managed to find a career that uses both of those degrees pretty regularly. But yeah, before when I lived in Seattle, I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. Like set up a little armor making, sword making workshop in my little shed that I was renting out the back of our house. But to pay the bills at that time, I was a photojournalist for a small newspaper.
Okay.
So kept me busy, really good time, just on our own. My partner Cassie and I, we learned molding and casting, and she eventually got a job at a plastics supply place that sold molding materials and stuff. And so we both kind of entered our journey into prop making that way. But backing up even further, like straight out of school, I was doing a lot of cosplay and stuff.
That's awesome.
Just hardcore into it. That was how I met some of my best friends, was like journeying outside of my small town and just experiencing people from all over the place.
Yeah.
And that gave me the bug to eventually just travel the world and no money at all and moved to New Zealand. But it opened a lot of doors running the convention circuit and stuff, and just gave me an opportunity to see that there are like-minded people that just want to make stuff. And for me, just kind of observing the world around, knowing that everything around us has been built by human hands for the majority of us. And going, okay, but how did they do that? And that led me into that path of history of like, well, it started like this, and now it's going like that. It's easier now because of these types of equipment or tools or whatever. So journeyed through that, got involved in the Seattle Knights, the sword fighting troupe I was a part of. Good family people there.
And is this like, late high school, early college, or out of college?
I was still in college, and I was driving like 2.5 hours to do classes with them. And I mean, I was constantly on the move.
That's awesome.
Just couch surfing.
Yeah.
Like I had a circuit every week. Most of my classes were online, so I was doing those online, but then I have to show up for some of the classes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was in school, because I double majored for my 2-year degrees, I was in school for like 4 years.
Oh wow.
So it was hardcore, but I had to get through it, get the classes done. Very, very proud of that. Got certified as a welder, and then looked up welding jobs, and I was like, I don't think I want to work in a factory. But managed to stay out of doing like production line welding and stuff.
Though if it was here at Cole, it's,
Well, that would be a little different than like welding forklifts together.
Yeah, you and our welder Josh were having a bromance yesterday, hanging out, forging, and having a great time.
I'll go bother him later.
We try to keep even though this is a production place and we build machines and they're all the same, we mix it up.
You can stand up. Like the place I was interviewing at, you literally had a chair and there was a conveyor belt that came by, and you just do the same 6 welds and then it would move. And it's like, I don't think I want to do that. Yeah.
And not to derail your story, but I don't know if you've even got a good understanding yet of the Seattle Knights from you. I mean, I get the vibe it's a reenactment group. You guys do awesome, stage combat, sword fighting, from my understanding. Do you guys travel, or is it at different Ren fairs, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the Seattle Knights is a stage combat acting troupe that does jousting shows and Highland games and all kinds of stuff. Cool. And it's all kinds of sword fighting. And they're hired to do shows all over the Pacific Northwest. I mean, they've gone as far as Florida once.
Nice.
Hauling horses all the way to Florida is a big deal. So try to stay in the Pacific Northwest, but yeah. So everybody had swords and armor, and everybody likes swords and armor, but they break, they're uncomfortable. And one of my early jobs was to fix everybody's stuff and then design stuff that was just better, which was a really good background, that and in the cosplay of getting into the film industry, because if you have to wear it, it's your fault if it's uncomfortable.
That's great. Yeah.
If it's too heavy to use, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Which is a great place to be. So I really empathize with a lot of film stunties when they go, this shield's impossible to use. It's like, I agree with you. That should totally change, because you can't do your job because the tool provided is just the wrong tool, right? And so, I mean, I did a little bit of stunt work into like short films and things when I was in Seattle, and that gave me really good experience into the film world, and I did a few commercials, his art department, and all these little things. So by the time I had met Richard Taylor of WETA Workshop, I'd already had a little bit of experience of the kinds of things that WETA does, welding, fabricating, mold making, casting, same thing with my partner, Cassandra, as we both everybody wants to make a small WETA workshop in their shed or in their garage.
That was Andy's and my desire.
Yeah.
Kind of did.
And Richard loves that.
That's awesome.
Like his goal is always been to make more creatives in the world.
Yeah.
That's why he's set up tour spaces. We got a second tour space in Auckland now, WETA Workshop Unleashed, so people can actually come in and take pictures of all of the different processes, experience what it's kind of like to be in a horror movie or on a fantasy set. And so he's built all of this stuff so that people could just experience it. And maybe 1 out of every 10 people goes home and just gives something a go. And that's a good ratio, really. Like the amount of people that just consume and just buy things. It's quite high compared to the amount of people that make things. Yeah, gosh.
And if anybody listening, is not mega nerds like myself, and like Andy were growing up, which, gosh, I was telling you last night, and it's not an exaggeration. I mean, I don't know what Cole or my work would look like if it wasn't for the, from afar, just seeing the infectious positivity and creativity, even on just DVD or clips online. I don't know what our work would have looked like without the inspiration from afar, from WETA. There's so many factors that go into the building of a business and a person's life. But if anybody's not familiar and, hasn't geeked out and watched the special features behind the scenes of, Narnia, Lord of the Rings, all the, Avatar they worked on, do yourself a favor, do your soul a favor, and go on at least YouTube or get those DVDs and watch the behind the scenes. And specifically Richard, I mean, I've not met him. He's your boss, your colleague, but he's just seems like such a positive guy, and it's so cool to see the community. I know there's a lot of difficulties with a business growing and it being big and a lot of moving pieces, but it sounds like you guys still more or less are able to keep that retaining spirit. It's a pretty special place because it's a curated space for artisans. And trying to keep commercial art profitable has always been a challenge. Even just manufacturing, because we don't manufacture the same thing over and over again. We make a working prototype and then get on to the next movie. It might be a sci-fi thing, it might be a fantasy thing, it might be whatever. But we also have to deliver at the highest level, so you have to become an instant expert in things. And the pressure involved in that can be quite overwhelming for a lot of people. And magically, I just happen to fall into the category of people that thrive in that kind of chaos. So it was a good fit for me. Fantastic.
But like when I first met Richard at a convention up in Canada.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask, bring us back to the specifics. I'm going to keep probably dragging you back in the story.
So I met Richard Taylor in about 10 years ago at Calgary Expo.
Cool.
And I had some mutual friends that worked at WETA at the time, and it was just like, okay, well, you should meet this Christopher guy. And so I wait in line with everyone else, and I've got my little old iPad with a half-baked portfolio in it. And I'm wearing a suit of armor I made because, you got to do that.
Yes.
You got to stand out. But the suit of armor was a Dr. Doom cosplay.
Oh, nice.
So full steel face mask, and it all came apart with magnets and stuff, and I could put it on my head.
I can just see Richard. Again, I don't know him, but like I feel like I do.
It made him sit
geeking
up.
out. Yeah, he seems like he's got the childlike. You know, I like to make a distinction between there's childish people. Childish can be kind of mean, you know, selfish, and then but childlike is positive. You know, childlike is that winsome, inviting, inspired spirit. He seems childlike.
You've got to be able to actually experience awe.
Yes.
If you're constantly looking for awe, then you will experience it. And
he's got that.
Like, he's the guy that he will sit up and take note of creatives, even if we're socially awkward people that can't really hold a conversation. But like, yeah, it was cool. And so I offered to help them with tearing down the booth and all that stuff. And they're like, yep, sweet, whatever. And then eventually got on their convention circuit since I was already in North America.
Okay.
Like they were flying me out to the shows to work their booth, along with a bunch of the Kiwis that would fly up for the convention circuit back when that was a thing. So like New York City Comic Con, Salt Lake City, San Diego Comic Con, obviously. And yeah, a whole bunch of those. I think we did a few more. Cassie was also doing the same thing with me.
That's so great.
Did that together. And she was running the booth, and I was setting stuff up. And our friends Stacy and Eric were really accommodating for us to help with that. And at some point, Richard was at another one of the shows, and he saw me like up on a ladder fixing a thing. And he's just like, "We should get that guy down to New Zealand."
That's awesome.
And Eric looked over at him like, "Yeah, obviously." So I was doing some more shows. We did a show in Korea and Mexico City. And at some point, I was just like, "Hey, I still haven't been to New Zealand. Like, maybe we should fix that." Like, "Oh, yeah, okay, sweet." So he got me down there. So I didn't even move down there till 2014.
Okay.
So my partner Cassie and I moved down there to check it out. But it was, I'd say it took us a year to do it, but it was still kind of last minute, and we were still paying rent in the States.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
We didn't know if we were going to stay, right? And we got down there and just met people that just became instant family, and we're like, "Oh, yeah, I guess this is home now." Because we've traveled. Like she studied abroad for several months over in Spain. We did a whole Morocco trip. We've gone all over the world as much as we could afford. But that was kind of the first place we landed, and we're like, "Oh, is this what a home looks like?"
That's awesome.
I'd say another year and a half, maybe. I lived in Wellington longer than any other city. It's like, "Where are you from?" It's like, lots of places. Originally born in Colorado, moved to Washington State, just never stayed put there, and just been on the move ever since. And then I hit Wellington, and I'm like, it's like a city, but I can leave. I can go scuba diving in any direction. Like, it's pretty wicked.
Amazing.
So it was Richard that really, essentially found me, but I made myself findable. And then once I was working there, I started in welding fabricating. It's called the engineering department. Just doing heavy welding, heavy machinery stuff, big, large armatures for sculptures. And, like, built the giant sleigh for the Krampus movie. And one of the first projects we were on when we got down there was something called the Scale of Our War. And this is an exhibit at the National Museum called Te Papa. And both Cassie and I, coming from America, don't really have a great background in World War I history. Like we far more involved in World War II. But the story being told by Kiwis is the Anzac troops, the Australian and New Zealand Armed Forces. Really like stepped up during World War I, joining the British Empire at the beaches of Gallipoli. And so we came in and started on this project and just learned so much about the impact of World War I on the population of New Zealand.
Evan, thank you for pulling these images out for those watching. I remember seeing these online. What year was this when you guys did this exhibit?
That would have been 2014.
Okay. And is it still visible?
It's still up at Te Papa. It was going to be a traveling exhibit, but for a number of reasons it stayed there. It's won all kinds of awards, but like the name of it is the Scale of Our War, and all of these figures are 2.4 size life guys, and they're all silicon, hair punched, fiberglass mannequins with like textiles, costuming, real leather boots, just the model making on those guns, like that Maxim machine gun there. That was a big project my friend Robbie and I and a number of other model makers were working on. But most of that's actually all metal.
Okay.
But it was a very humbling project to be a part of, and just incredible to still be able to visit, because most of the film work you make is it shows up, and if it makes sense in the story to feature that prop just predominantly, then it will be on screen and people can visit it on screen. But this one you can visit in person at any time. And a lot of things for films just don't survive filming. It's just like, well, it's too expensive to store, so until it goes. Where something like that is like, that was really Richard and Tanya's foray into doing museum exhibits and stuff. And it was really cool to be at the forefront of that, because we've done quite a lot of location-based experiences from Dubai to China to Korea and traveling exhibits in Australia and things.
That's awesome.
So it's really quite nifty to be part of that and doing sculptures as well as the film side of things. And so we rolled into a lot of that stuff. And of course, I met Peter Lyon when I was there. And became really good friends. And it's funny, backing up again to that first conversation with Richard and looking through my goofy little portfolio. He was like, well, we've already got a guy who does swords, but... And I was like, well, I can do mold making. I can do all this stuff too. Like, okay. And he's like, well, okay. Sure. And then eventually Peter's like, hey, so when are you going to come work for me? And I was like, that is when you've got work.
Just such a good photo. Yeah. Again, for those watching.
Was mine and Peter's latest collaboration.
So good.
So I actually started those swords back in 2018 and then just never finished them. It was going to be a match set, one for me and one for my best friend, Kyle Robinson, who runs the Seattle Knights now. Yeah. And, you want nerdy bromance, we'll go deep into these swords. So,
gosh, you have a distinctive, beautiful, fresh style, and I love that, you can see little notes of, I'm sure, the things that you've picked up from and learned from Peter, because for those, again, who don't know, gosh, do yourself a favor, go on YouTube or whatever and type in Peter Lyons, WETA, and, watch the old featurettes of him, 20 years ago making the swords for Lord of the Rings. It's so inspiring to Andy and I, and he's, you got to, for the world's sake and for my sake, selfishly, go home and poke and prod him and force him onto Instagram. Some of the most brilliant, gifted guys in the craft are elusive, and they're busy and whatnot. But man, his work is so inspiring. I don't think he realizes the impact he's had on so many guys.
Oh, he realizes, but he's also like uncomfortable.
Sure,
it's just a humble craftsman. It's the coolest dude.
Yeah,
and I really appreciate working for him. We're really good friends. And I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff, and he'll turn around and say he's learned stuff from me as well, which is quite like, oh, okay. Because I come from a welding fabricating background, and I come from the age of the internet as his apprentice now. Yeah. Like he likes to say the only secret in blade making now is that there aren't any secrets. Yeah. When he started in the early 80s, he got some books. And living in New Zealand, there isn't a museum anywhere that has a sword in it. And if it is, it's probably some 19th century ceremonial saber of some kind. So he didn't have the advantage of being near a large city in America or anywhere in Europe where you could just go visit these objects. Yeah. And in the reenactment community back then, they couldn't get swords into New Zealand because nobody made swords to export. So Peter just had to start making swords, and he just learned the craft on his own using just hand tools you can find at the hardware store. Yeah. And just had his base knowledge in almost entirely literature, pictures and the like. And now you and I can have a conversation without ever meeting. Right?
Yeah. It's been
awesome. You invited me here. I'm like, well, I'll be stateside. I might as well stop by Indiana. I've already crossed the Pacific. What's another 4-hour flight? Exactly. So I mean, and so for him, it's awesome, but intimidating to see some of the stuff that's out there and people pushing the envelope, because the way he would describe it is that he is a specialist in a highly specialized field. I will unabashedly say he can hollow grind better than anyone alive.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Like whether or not he will admit that, I don't know. But the man is just a motion control machine.
Gosh.
And when I was first learning from him, because I did a little bit of hollow grinding before, like, how do you hold this thing? How do you get a straight line out of this?
Yeah.
And then you watch him work, and it's just like, you just push it against the linear until it's done. It's just like done, easy.
Yeah.
And like he always be grinding on just home-built linears that run at as fast as they can possibly go.
No variable speed.
No variable speed. Tiny little like 12 mil contact wheels, half-inch contact wheel. Just terrifying. And, you know, belts explode. And that just happens. It rips the sword out of your hand and slams it against the ground. It's just like, okay. Well. So I introduced him to variable speed, and he's like, oh, this changes everything. Like, so that's been cool because, we bounce these ideas off each other all the time. It's like, and it's changed my outlook. Like normally for me, I'm going, okay, this power tool is going to remove so much material off of a thing that it's going to be rubbish, right? You're going to throw it away. And so I'm going to build a jig to not mess it up. I'm going to build a work rest or something, then it's just going to take me all afternoon to figure out how to set up a thing. Or I could just get good at it.
Yeah.
And getting good at it means you can adapt that skill, whereas a jig is a jig is a jig. And it's like you have to adapt the jig for every job. So I'm just like, or I could just be Peter Lyon and just walk up to the linear and be like, I own you.
It's badass, There is that strange, it's funny.
You have to be in the right mindset, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's two sides of the coin. I hear the guys saying, like, you know, amazing guys I respect and love, and, you know, friends at, you know, I'll see a Blade show, guys in the ABS world, and they're like, you know, you got to unlearn a lot of stuff. And that's true, you know, bad habits. But also, I think there can be a strange blessing and benefit to learning things, quote, the wrong way and having the wrong tools. And I'm like, just start, you know, I know it's hard. Heck, we're a tool company. We sell, you know, professional quality, you know, nice fancy tools, and people obviously want and should get our tools to do pattern welding. But it's great to start too when you don't, you know, like start the hard way, start without a press, start without a fancy grinder.
I mean, one of the things is if you're really keen on getting into a trade or a artistic venture, let's say, it doesn't even have to be blade making or anything. If it's just sculpting, if it's whatever, the barrier to entry for everyone is different.
Yeah.
It matters where you are, what resources you have available, and whatever. The major thing is the creative resourcefulness that you're able to bring. It's like, I'm not able to do professional quality this, but I'm interested in exploring that, felting, whatever it is. I want to learn how to knit. I want to learn how to do whatever. I just want to learn how to make something. I need to keep my hands busy. I mean, that's mental stability for so many people, right? It's just to be able to be creative. Just go learn like edge weapon napping off of these. Flint napping, right? That's totally a thing that we've been doing a little while.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But yeah, for so many people, it's an incredible blessing to be able to walk into a shop like myself with the ability to learn welding and fabricating with the right tools to start with. Like, I had a great understanding of angle grinding just being a welder before I started making art with metal. And so I knew the parameters of the tool and the health and safety behind it and how that tool wants to destroy me at all given moments and how I have to wrestle it to not. And, you know, respect the power tool. Same thing with woodworking, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, it's observe the resources you have around you, figure out how to turn them into art.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what way it is to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, gosh, send our regards and love to Peter, and keep encouraging him to put beautiful work out into the world. And rewinding back, you know, to just praising and geeking over your work. I mean, obviously, anybody who visits your Instagram and checks it out is going to see your spectacular swords and blades you make. But I'm such a huge fan. It's funny, you know, I was telling Chris the other day, it's like, I can make a pattern welded broadsword, I can make real things, but right now, the bug that's bitten me is I want to make fake aluminum prop swords with 3D printed handles, because I've got a 6-year-old son and he can wield those, and that's fun. And I want to make miniature sets and dioramas for my amazing girlfriend who does, you know, stop motion and stuff. It's like, that's what I want to do. I want to make fake trees. And
we just need to trade some skill points around a little bit.
Teach me everything you know. And so if you scroll on Chris's Instagram as well, Christopher's Instagram, you'll see the incredible miniature work, or bigature work, as you call it, that you do at WETA. And it's been cool to learn from you and hear all the, jack of all trades skills that you bring to the team. And you share with us some of the miniatures you've done for films.
So I've been, a miniature effects artist pretty much since I started at WETA. Again, pick a dying skill and just overdo it.
Yeah.
So we did Thunderbirds Are Go. That was a good introduction into doing miniature sets and all of these things. But and we broke into doing, we did Blade Runner 2049, miniature sets for that, and got pretty involved in that side of things. We, the folks and I, won an award for Blade Runner 29, VES award, which was pretty humbling. It's a craftsperson award for visual effects, but we managed to do it with practical effects, which hasn't happened in a long time. Like the Visual Effects Society basically started when Lord of the Rings started, and Lord of the Rings miniatures just kind of cleaned house on that. And the visual effects side of Lord of the Rings for digital stuff was, of course, just unparalleled, unseen, and it still holds up really well today.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the foundation was really in miniatures. And so we got to work with Alex Funke on that one, who shot the miniatures for that and worked on The Abyss and I think Total Recall miniatures as well. He's the man. He's one of my favorite people. And I've gotten to work with him a few times. We've done quite a few of those miniatures. Got some other miniatures on things that are coming out at some point, hopefully. Talk about later, but then we part of the WETA Workshop Unleashed that Richard's brainchild was building a miniature set of a giant fantasy castle, which I think Adam Savage came down and did several videos of what we were working on at the time. Early in 2020. And with that since been installed, and the tour space is open and stuff, and we'll do like live streaming events from up there in Auckland and stuff, which is quite fun because it's a event space, a tour space, and all of the IP, the intellectual property in there is owned by WETA, so we can have people just take as many pictures as they want and just experience the world, which is kind of the EverClan, so it's like dinosaurs versus dinosaurs, and you've got your good guys and your bad guys.
That's cool.
They're sieging the castle, and you kind of walk through this ravine. And
isn't it like I remember? I keep telling people go on YouTube and search WETA videos, and I can't say that enough. But some of my favorite are the ones that Adam filmed when he visited you guys. He just did such a thorough job of just highlighting all of you. And when I remember him featuring that, we need to have Adam out to our shop too as well. I think, he would have fun. And there's you and Peter Lyons and Adam. But correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the world you guys created the original world not affiliated with a film, although it should be a film? Is it like instead of humans, evolving and becoming the apex predator, it was like lizards? Is that it?
So they're just dinosaurs never died out. So now they've got society and fight about it the way we do.
That's so great.
So high fantasy. So like Darren Gordine did a crazy leather armor for a dinosaur, and he's the guy that did like Gondor armor and all that stuff. Wow. He's the one that does the swords and the scabbard, or the scabbards and the handles and the belts and stuff for the Master Swordsmith collection that Peter and I work on. So.
Cool.
But it's pretty special. Like just throwing artistry in there and just filling up walls with all that stuff is fun. And everybody asks, so when are these movies coming out? It's like, well, we got to film them first.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a sci-fi one in there. We've got a big giant UFO and a crashed alien robot thing. It's beautiful animatronics in there. I'm pretty useless when it comes to animatronics. Like I can help metal things, but as far as moving parts, there's people with incredible that part of their brain open to just creating flawless animatronics, and we're definitely moving into that. Like one of the characters that introduces you into WETA Workshop is a full animatronic.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen clips of it. It's so cool. That's so awesome. Cool. Yeah, I love it. So, okay, yeah, kind of back to your story, just because I love the nitty gritty details of, how you guys moved and you and your partner made this adventure over and, found your family there, the creative community, which I hope, I really feel here at Cole, and I hope the gang here feels as well. I think our team does. It's been funny to learn from you and hear, the behind the scenes and what life at WETA is like, because obviously, you guys are supplying arms and armor for, Marvel movies, Black Panther, Lord of the Rings, yada, yada. And, we are a tool making company. Seems very different, but it's crazy how many similarities there are. You guys have to navigate things like any business, supply chain issues, like dealing with costs and variables of, okay, we got to stay within budget. I mean, we deal with that on presses, as anybody can imagine, like, we got to, change supplier or whatever. Sounds like, you've been a blessing to the team there, and that you can kind of jump to different departments. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's the real advantage of being able to work in a team, is you don't have to be the best at what you do. What you have to do is be the best at being good at a teamwork.
Yeah.
Because nobody exists alone.
Yeah.
There is no such thing. Like my favorite quote is from Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
Like, to truly make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe.
That's awesome. I love
and I take that into every type of crafting that I do, right?
Yeah.
It's not a lone wolf exercise. There isn't a lone blacksmith on the edge of town doing stuff. But to kind of go back to what you're saying about tool-making company, I mean, I've always ascribed my work to be... Well, at WETA specifically, my role there, I'm really insulated from having to do day-to-day business things. I mean, I do have to quote on jobs that I will be working on.
Sure.
So then it's my fault if I didn't do enough hours. Right? But then I have input on how things are going to be made when we get into that kind of thing. And what I feel my contribution to clients really is that we are also tool makers. I am a tool maker for storytellers.
There you go. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So if I make a gorgeous sword to put in the hands of an actor, that provides a story, because that actor is now part of this. This sword is part of their entire back line. This is a tool they use to exist in the universe that this place is trying to be made up by, right? And even if it's just set dressing or something in the background, or a rig under a table to move something that you've unseen, or armature inside of little animatronic things that needs to move right. It's all of it has to fulfill the brief, which is what does it need to do on screen. If it just needs to sit there and look pretty, that means you don't need to paint the other side of it.
Yeah.
You've really got to do this guided meditation through how is this going to be utilized, and how is it going to make making the filmmakers tell a better story.
Yeah.
Or how do they want to tell their story, and what do they need from us to be able to do it in a way? Because like specifically when you get into like swords as the ultimate prop people think of when they think of the word prop, of something that a character is interacting with, specifically in swords and sandals type movies, not so much in sci-fi, but even a little bit there, is the sword is generally a character on its own.
Yeah.
It is an ambassador on the movie poster right next to your principal actor almost every time. And like when we did the stuff for Mulan, like the cartoon for Mulan is Mulan divided into her warrior and her civilian side of things of joining the military, and what divides that is the sword. And so when they did the live action version, the movie poster is that sword.
Wow.
But then I look closely because I've been staring at it for my entire existence too close. It's just like, that's not the sword I made. That's like cropped in, and it's all like grainy, so you can tell it's a sword and all this stuff. And Peter's like, well, welcome to the club.
Yeah, right.
And he shared with me, he's like, you should actually look at Narsil and Aragon. Because that's the wrong proportions for that sword. They had to crush it down to fit it on the movie poster. And I was like, oh my God. And then there's a really famous one. We didn't work on 300, but like the movie poster of 300 with Leonidas and his sword off to one side. If you look at it, they've they've shifted the sword blade to like
Oh my gosh.
almost where his wrist starts, or maybe it's over his knuckles. I don't remember, but it was to fit in the DVD cover. And so they just took the sword blade and just slid it, and the crossguard doesn't even line up. It's so funny.
Dang,
I love
Photoshop, guys.
I love props in movies because I'm not maybe the funnest person to watch films with. Like me and my colleagues are always looking for the seams. As it were.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
if the seam isn't cleaned up or whatever on a prop, you just
Oh,
see
there
it.
you go. Yeah,
Look at it. Look,
yeah.
it's over his wrist.
Did our mutual friend Tony Swatton of Sword and did he do the 300 swords? Who?
I don't know. I'd have to ask him.
Yeah, they were
it
cool.
Seems like
Something he did. Yeah, of course.
he's done everything. Like
He has.
The man's a legend.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, yeah, Andy and I felt that way. It's so we were joking the other night, Chris and I talking about, I don't want to tell the story, your and Peter's story, but it sounds like, of all the swords that Peter was proud of, it's always somehow the director and the props team on set, because the sword maker's really on set, picks the sword maker's least favorite, version of that sword. It's like the one he didn't put the effort to is the one that gets the close up. Like,
well, and even the prop master on set, I'm good friends with several of them, and they're like, yeah, the AD will always say, no, you can change it before we hit the shot. Like, don't worry, we'll get another shot with the hero sword. Well, they're just holding like a rubber one or something.
Yeah.
Just to make him go away. And then they're just like, we're just going to shoot the scene. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but I care. Like, you paid for a big hero sword. Like,
you're not using it.
Why isn't it there?
Andy and I, our big job that kind of changed our lives was, making the swords for Thor, Heimdall's sword, not the other ones for the first Thor movie. And we were kids, we're like 19, 20 making this thing in barn in Indiana, and so many mistakes on it. And of course, like, we sent them 2 swords, which were steel. They didn't need to be steel. First off, I make them out of heat treated H13, and then the hilt is rushed together, and there's like seams with JB Weld. It's so embarrassing and silly. And of course, one sword was better than the other, and then on the worst sword there was one side that was worse than the other. And of course, the close up on Heimdall's sword in the movie, which one is it? It's the worst one, worst angle, and you can like see it. And and I can see it. Nobody else can see it when I watch it in 4K.
I mean, Peter and I have had this conversation several times, especially when I was first starting out with him too, is like you sit there with your magnifiers on and you are just perfecting a little thing. People walk by and they're just like, you're clearly wasting time. It's like, no, I'm looking at this the way it will be seen on a silver screen inside of an IMAX theater.
Yeah.
And it will be blown up like this. And the actor, it's just like, if I can see it here, it might make it on screen.
Yes.
And we have to be crazy pedantic about that kind of thing because of the level of quality we're expected to deliver. And specifically with the Master Swordsmith collection that Peter Lyon did of the Lord of the Rings swords, there's like 10 or 15 of each sword that are in a collection. So we do highly collectible versions of these swords and send them all over the world when they sell out. And that's what I've been helping Peter with when we're not on a film or anything. And the level of detail we have to achieve for those is beyond jewelry quality.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to get out their phone and go, oh, look, I've got a weird scratch here. And then they compare the swords because collectors do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they are easily better than any of the things made for the film.
Sure.
Because of a number of factors. But I mean, Peter's got 20 more years experience now. I remember when I was working on Boromir's sword, we were doing the crossguard, and I was just hand sanding, making sure that the central ridge was perfectly straight and kind of checking how the twists in the crossguard were and just cleaning those up so that they could be, because we sell them as a number of different finishes. So I do mirror polish, and if it's mirror polished, you can see if there's any undulation or anything. Everything actually has to be smooth. And I went and looked at the original sword holding the crossguard up, and Peter just kind of gives me the side eye. Don't look at that. We do better work than that.
Yeah. Gosh, Evan, if you're able to pull up any of those Master Smith, for those viewing, what would he search? Master Smith?
Master Swordsmith.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings collection.
Yeah. The Boromir sword, gosh, is so
that was
inspiring.
a very fun sword.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, Adam Savage ended up with one of those.
Oh, awesome.
It's funny because like Richard gifted it to him at San Diego Comic-Con, not one of the years I was there, or Peter was there. But Peter was watching the video and he's like, because Adam pulls it out, whoosh, and he's like, I know how sharp that sword is. And there's a crowd of people around.
Is it like actually razor sharp?
Yeah, so people can order them sharp.
Yes.
They can order them blunted. Sting sold out a long time ago, but and mirror polish, satin finish. You can do a Scotch Brite finish, so that's as it was done in the film, as a satin finish, but with the hollow grinding lines going perpendicular to the blade.
Oh, wow.
And that's just the look of original Lord of the Rings swords. Or we can do a better job and actually hand sand it. Down to actual perfection.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point now where it's like, well, we should hand sand it and then put the lines back in, because then it's perfect and it's perfect.
Gosh, yeah. And it's funny how the fans, of course, they want it to look more movie accurate. You know, we have our standards as professional swordsmiths of, well, this is historical. Fans of movies are like, I don't care. I want what it looked like. They actually want
Todd Cutler came out with a very cool video recently about just how ropey medieval swords truly were.
Yeah, I loved that video. I said, yeah, it was great.
And I definitely recommend watching that. But it's like, cool, if we're recreating medieval swords, then a certain amount of tool marks and, apprentice was here marks are totally acceptable, and they add to the look. And they will add to the story of like what that sword means and what was the context that character would be carrying it. Because if the character is carrying just this immaculate sword, but there's a good
Gosh, I love a Boromir's sword.
I love the way they photograph them too. They're so cool.
Evan, we gotta match that level of photo quality for projects. Evan's like, no, it would make his life harder.
So pretty. So with the just the level of quality for modern clients, they expect this crazy perfection. I think the way Todd put it is a fetish size symmetry and things, which wasn't there historically. Yeah. But the way I look at that is, well, I'm not a historical smith.
Sure.
I am a person making swords in my time, pushing the field of what our forebears did.
Yes.
And so I build for what my clients want, which has to be that level of insanity.
Yeah.
I mean, it might take me a day to fit a cross guard.
Yep.
And who's going to pay you for that?
Thankfully, there are some kind souls out there.
Totally people willing to appreciate the actual time and effort it takes as a craftsperson to put it in. And another side of swords is everybody, I've got a very, very interesting job. It's very cool. It's very satisfying. At the same time, most people really like swords, and you've probably come across this, is everyone wants to be around swords, but not very many people like making swords when it comes down to it, because it's a lot of boring sitting there work.
It really is, yeah.
Just staring at mistakes until you rub them away.
Yeah, exactly. So many people, young guys, I'm so grateful to teach classes, especially now here at the Cole School of Iron, which has been a blast. I taught one sword making class, and I want to teach more. And I have a small Patreon page that I try to teach, everything I know and not hide any secrets, with anybody who wants to, join Cedar Lore with me. And I get a lot of young guys, and I love the enthusiasm, the excitement. But I'm sure you've run into this. They assume your whole day must be sledging away, sweating while just hammering hot steel, and it's like that's maybe 5% of the process, or zero, and there's no cheating in as a modern smith or even an ancient smith doing a stock removal sword. I mean, stock removal did exist, then, whether it's scraping or grinding in a fuller or whatnot. But it's kind of there's this romanticized version of like the sparks flying and that's all of it. And it's like, no, it's a lot of I feel like most of being a sword maker or even a bladesmith, a knife maker is like more like a locksmith or a keysmith, just making dust, Yeah. And that's okay. That's
totally it. I mean, you just sit down, you want to make the art. So you want to enjoy the process. It's paramount.
Yeah.
And that's with any art, right? If you only like the finished piece, then go buy it from someone who's making it.
Sure.
If you want to learn the process and really get into it, then you don't spend very much time with a sword. You spend a lot of time with 5 or 6 objects on a table. The moment that's assembled into a single object, it goes away.
Yeah.
And you get back to raw materials again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good advice.
Which is what I find fun. Do you want to talk about a bit the 48-hour dagger build?
Yes, please. I love that. And I need to join in on that fun.
You definitely need to do it this year.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, that was started by Niels Vanderberg over in South Africa.
Good buddy of our company and us.
Yeah. He's a bit of a riot.
Yeah.
And he's just put out this 48-hour dagger build. Design what you want ahead of time, prepare your materials, and you have 48 hours to do a sole authorship dagger, sleep optional. So I've done it the last 3 years. I plan on doing it again. I don't know what my design will be.
Which year was this dagger?
That was my first year, so we were all in COVID lockdown, and that was just what I could do at home and under a blue tarp on my back porch, because I didn't have a workshop set up yet.
Okay.
All my tools being at WETA and wherever I was working. So yeah, that's my back room there.
That's amazing. A lot of draw filing. Gosh, yeah, draw filing is one of those skills. It's like, I know everybody wants to get the fancy grinder, and we're friends with all the grinder companies, great people. But look, I mean, learning the hard way, doing it, draw filing is fantastic.
Part of the reason I was draw filing that was because it was too loud to use my grinder at night with my neighbors. This is why I had to move to the file. Gosh, that was super late. But yeah, that was the first year I did it.
That's spectacular.
And that silicon bronze inlay. Into the fuller, which I did with a TIG welder, which is pretty cool.
That really truly is one of my favorite pieces you've done. It's so
There's
beautiful.
my lighting setup if you're curious how to do the lighting.
Yeah. Gosh. Fantastic.
Just on a little anvil.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was hard work. And forged out the tang, and I tried to drift the hole for the pommel, and I think I got all the way through it, and then basically the mandrel was a rivet at the end, so I had to cut the mandrel off and drag everything apart. But I mean, it worked. And then the following year, I did a cinquedilla. So I had, what was that, 6 fullers?
Oh, yeah.
10 fullers?
If you're able to scroll further up on his feet, Evan.
The triangle-shaped blade.
And was that, if you can share, made at your now kind of home shop setup, or was it a little bit of that?
So I got a home shop setup. I just bought a 10-foot shipping container. Yeah, so I did the fullers at WETA on the other linisher because mine doesn't have that small of a wheel. But then that's an 8-inch hollow grind on the blade edges itself.
Wow.
Heat treated there.
Those blades are so wild. When I was in Italy, studying some originals, hands-on, it's just like those blades are just something else. They're like from another world. I always want
to do a bit of a bonkers knife because I am not a knife maker. I make swords, and so all of my blades basically have through tangs. Yeah. Even though this one has scales like the traditional one did, and you can argue whether or not this was a knife or a sword throughout history based on their different lengths. But I mean, it was only in northern Italy and only by rich civilians that carried these things, and only for a short period of time. Didn't really cut them. But that was my first time working with wrought iron as well.
Oh, cool.
That cross guards wrought iron, and then that the shaped pommel thing is a bit of silicon bronze that was cast with some imperfections in it. So
I love
when you
that.
grind through it, you get some cool textures and things.
I always joke, I'm like, I don't know if I'm right in this assumption, and I could be right. Maybe this is a thought from another colleague, sword maker friend of mine, but I have a suspicion that if you hopped in a time machine and took, especially like my work, like I love making a piece nice and then beating the hell out of it and making it look a little bit antiqued and old.
Yep.
But if I was to take one of my pieces back in time and show an ancient smith, he'd be like, dude, this is terrible. Like, why you got the dents in it? Why are you making it look old? Because to us, to our modern eyes, it seems like, not always, but often like a mirror polish, a chrome polish, looks cheap, at least in my eyes. And that's because of stuff like, plating, chrome plating. But to them, a highly polished piece was amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And part of that is because like modern people are used to seeing shiny things. Like we've got galvanized conduit here. That's weird looking. Yeah. That's not a thing in nature. And this is why so many cultures appreciate gold as a metal, because it doesn't just tarnish. It's weird. Yeah. And that's why we've ascribed value to it, not because it's special and does anything. Now it's kind of special and does stuff because it doesn't tarnish. It's good for electronics, not because it's some magical, like we just assign value to things and everything's made up anyway. So it doesn't matter. But like for us, we don't have the surroundings. Our surroundings aren't made by nature predominantly. Like we cast cement, we grind up bits of stone and make the world around us.
Yeah.
So having shiny objects is kind of like, well, it's just another shiny object,
Yeah.
right? And it's just we've been able to manufacture things to such a level that it seems like we're in a sci-fi world. For the vast majority of time, that wasn't the case. So now we like aesthetics like seeing hammer marks left in forging,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't see on a decent blade basically any time in history,
Yeah.
outside of early Iron Age stuff, because it's not good enough. But now it's like, oh, I need to make a knife and leave the hammer marks in and just grind a bevel. That looks mean.
Yeah.
That looks so cool because, it shows that the tool marks in the system weren't just stamped out on a great big like drop hammer or something.
Yeah.
It was actually handmade. And so now we have a modern aesthetic of, oh, it looks old in a way it never looked before.
Yeah.
So there's that dichotomy, which I love exploring. But like with the aging you were talking about, I really like getting into that kind of thing because if I just hand an actor a brand new sword, then that actor is playing a guy who just got a brand new sword.
Yeah.
If you hand an actor a brand new or a aged sword that's been in the world, they can then act like Mulan's father's sword. That was a very shiny sword.
Yeah.
But the grip was a bit older. That means the blade's been taken care of through generations.
Yeah.
But it's been used.
Yeah.
And like the bronze had little dings in it, and then it was patinaed a bit darker. I think the grip could have been a bit filthier, but that generally happens on set anyway. And like then you can inhabit, okay, the actor, she is using her father's sword.
Yeah.
She's taking it to battle, right? And it is a nicer sword than everyone else has, so everyone should actually pay attention. But
That's so cool.
that's how you inhabit the world. And when we do the Master Swordsmith collection, like you can order it as a mirror finish, you can do the satin finish, or you can do aged.
That's
Aged
cool.
is my favorite. And Peter's developed a few techniques to do some light aging on things, not heavily pitted to where it would compromise the actual function of the blade.
Sure.
And we don't do a lot of edge damage the way that like the Witch King sword was edge damaged. Because again, that will actually affect the usefulness of a blade. Because if you get too big of a ding, that's a stress riser for a crack to start. We don't want that. We want the best version of this to be the prettiest version of this, and especially at the price point we're selling, it's really important. So distressed leather, aged patinas on things, just a bit of rust to it, because you can also leave a bit of the tool marks in there too, which is quite good. Right?
Yeah.
You can see where rust would build up and then be hard to clean back in those grooves.
I love that look. Yeah. So fun. Just the how have I worded it in the past? It's like narrative storytelling non-verbally with those subtle touches. You know, you want to, and this is, I feel like stuff I remember, hearing you guys at WETA and the special features of rings talk about, of like, who was it? Ben Wooten. I loved his analogy in one of the featurettes of, it's like good cooking, when all the ingredients are there, you just enjoy it, but you don't notice it. But if one of the ingredients is missing, something's off.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like that to me is like adding those dings and dents, but then working them back, a little bit of steel wool, all that stuff is what makes it
And then
alive.
you get into movies like Thor, as you're familiar with. I did a bunch of the aluminum swords for Love and Thunder. Me and my colleagues, it wasn't me myself, but and those things are kind of just vanish out of magic, and so they should be brand new.
Yeah.
And so they haven't been trekked across the fields for decades or whatever. Only being cleaned back. So you get your sci-fi side of things that should be clean lines, actually hand sanded to perfection.
Yeah.
And then some of them are even painted so that they're like iridescent. And
That's cool.
The paint shop at WETA is just unparalleled for being able to match steel finishes on urethane swords.
Wow.
That's cool. Just like hard to tell which is which.
Yeah.
And that level is like a whole separate thing than your muddy swords and sandals type movies.
Absolutely.
But we try to do the same quality for any of those and just add the aging to the ones that need them, and then pull it back for because we'll do lots of acid etching on blades that just gives it a bit of texture, not necessarily color, but then you don't just have a single facet that's just blinds a camera.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny story about working on Mulan as well. Generally speaking, and they ran into this in Narnia, like mirror polishes are horrible. Not just to upkeep, but just to film.
Yeah.
Because there's a very famous, well, I don't know how famous it is. I tell everybody about it, but in the old Excalibur movie, like Merlin's got a big secret helm, which is a very close-fitting skull cap, and it is just a perfect chrome bowl on his head. And there's like one shot where he's standing on a cliffside observing something, and he's got his head down like this.
Yeah.
And the scene starts like that, and then he looks up and kind of looks off. But when he starts the scene, you can see the camera, you can see the lights, you can see the sound guy, and you can see the producer over there eating his lunch. It's just like everyone's in the shot.
Oh my gosh.
So shiny swords are really hard. And I did a bit of stunts with swords against a green screen. And as soon as a sword reflects a green screen, it's invisible.
Oh, yeah, gosh.
So you run into this stuff all the time. So with Narnia, I know they had to basically repaint stuff till they just looked flat and boring because the paint jobs were too good to do it, because they were matching steel armor at the time too. And so you gotta like really talk to the filmmakers and be like, okay, are you sure you want mirror finishes? And in Mulan's case, they were absolutely sure, because so much of that story was told in the animated version about her staring into her reflection. Like, what will my reflection show is one of the songs, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And the reflection that Mulan has is, who am I, looking into her father's sword, seeing who she is as a warrior, like in a suit of armor. And so, yes, the shiny sword is a very important storytelling part. But the sword is only like 25 mil wide. It's only an inch wide.
Interesting.
It's a very small sword, and it's only about as long as my arm for the blade.
Yeah.
Which is traditionally Chinese sized. Perfect. Well, trying to get a full shot of her face in that sword, pretty challenging. And of course, you're shooting right into the macro of, I mean, at that point, you'll be seeing the grain structure of the steel, you know, in her polish. And so they decided they wanted a double size sword. And because of the square cube law, double the length, double the thickness, 3 times the weight. And so that was a fun one. As we didn't make the full length, like we left the tip off because they didn't need it, but they needed the ricasso area where they had the Chinese characters. So they wanted to be able to pan across the blade. But it's a visual effects prop. Yeah. It's a sword-shaped object. It's actually made of steel because we need to get that level of shine to it. But that was 3 weeks of hand sanding. Gosh. Can you imagine 3 weeks of hand sanding? Because I can.
I
don't remember it, but I can imagine it.
That's amazing.
And it was like, it wasn't that I could buff it, because then I would lose the bevel change and the secondary bevel that I had put on the blade. Like this sword was so heavy that it was stalling our giant 2-horsepower lineagers.
Oh my gosh! On
the flat plate, just trying to get a nice flat surface, because I did grind a distal taper into it. Like, I did all the things. I don't know why. And then we had a big 3D printed Suba and Habaki and stuff for the handle. The originals were cast bronze, but you don't need a piece of cast bronze the size of your head. So made this giant sword, made a crazy box for it. But I mean, that was hand polished up past like 8,000 grit, 12,000 grit. I remember it was a massive mistake. I took a piece of computer paper, wrote "do not touch." Everybody goes, "Oh, it's shiny," and touches it, and you're just like, "Well, you just added a bunch of scratches with your human grit." But I put this piece of paper on the blade for people to not touch. The next day I come back and I drag that piece of paper off. The weight of the piece of paper and the grit of the piece of paper was higher than what I was sanding to.
Oh my gosh.
And it left scratches that took me 4 hours to get out.
Oh no.
And the scratch pattern was more important, because if you buff things, you blend all the scratch patterns away.
Yep.
And then you just wind up with a bunch of little things. They didn't want that. When they were doing their macro shots, they didn't want shiny, like swirly lines or anything. because with the buffing, you actually create little micro undulations. And of course, if you're panning across the perfect mirror, you don't want undulations.
Yeah.
Like, I am grateful they didn't just go CG with that, but like pretty much everyone would have, because that was a very expensive prop. Yeah. And, but yeah, there's I think I counted 3 shots in the movie where they used it, which was pretty cool. Like, she looks down and there's like a phoenix flying above her head. She's looking at the sword.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. Spoiler alert, that sword doesn't make it all the way to the end of the movie.
Okay. I've not had the chance to see it, but I've seen glimpses of what you guys made on the website.
The coolest sword in that whole film basically has no screen time. And that one was my favorite. That was the Emperor's Gift sword. And it's a awesome sword that's in this presentation box. The box has more screen time than the sword. They open up the box. You can see, grab the sword, and honestly, the scabbard was one of the prettiest things I've ever worked on. Really? Like, it had fittings all the way down it, big brass fittings. This is all cast brass instead of cast bronze, which is cool. And cleaning up all those things and just shining them up to the level of, this is what an emperor would gift somebody. That level of perfection. So it didn't have any of the aging, right? You're telling that story. It doesn't have the aging. It's a brand new sword at the level that a emperor would give. And so that was awesome. And it was so Mulan's father's sword was a single-edged, but this one was a double-edged yawn. And she draws it out, and that's it. Because then it cuts to a close-up. That close-up is that single-edged giant sword that I made. She's looking at her face in the reflection again. And so it's just funny, because if you watch that scene, you'll see they draw out a double-edged sword, and then they cut to a close-up of a single-edged shiny sword. It's like, amazing. Nobody else notices, but I'm like, wow, I know.
Yeah. The things
now you know
when you're involved in the craftsmanship. That's just incredible. Yeah, one of my favorite swords that Peter did was was King Peter's sword in Narnia, and I always thought it was cool how he got just the right amount of. It seems like it's one of the most mirror-ish finish swords he's done. But just love the look. But yeah, I've heard how challenging it is.
Yeah, and mirror finishing on a hollow grind like that is wildly challenging. But that was a very cool sword.
Yeah, and that looks like that particular one looks like a recreation, but the original one.
Yeah, the original one, I was fortunate enough to revamp the tour space for most recent revamp, and I made sure that one was in the tour space. So you can actually see that if you go on the tour at WETA Workshop in Wellington, because I was like, well, if I'm in charge, this is just going to become the Peter Lyon Museum.
Yeah.
We had a whole bunch of swords sitting on our wall, which, they're just swords hanging out. I'm like, more people should appreciate these, not just me. I mean, I love having, Lord of the Rings swords hanging up next to my desk. And some of my favorite swords from Narnia were the ones Peter made, which were the great swords.
The centaur. Yeah, love it.
And so we had 2 of those hero steel centaur swords, steel fittings, olive wood handle, like just incredible swords. And you can actually hold it with one hand.
Sheesh.
And it's, I think they were just under 1.6 meters tall. Sorry, I'm all metric now.
Dude, I love it. No.
But yeah, so I was like, I'm going to just clean these up. They're going to be behind perspex, behind glass. But I made a display where I put those in a big X there, and then Peter's swords in the back, and there's a bunch of Narnia things in there. I grabbed one of the costumes that they've had in the weapons wall forever. You'll see in some of the behind the scenes whenever anybody's interviewed, there's just a centaur sitting there with all steel armor, and then just a big horse butt sitting at the back with the great big leather saddle rail from the leather department. And it's just one of the coolest things. And I'm like, everyone should see this. So I stole that and put it in the tour space. And then a whole bunch of original Lord of the Rings props are all in there now too.
So good. I'm so grateful you're there. It sounds like it's such a blessing for you to infuse new life and keep Peter on his toes, and just remind him how much he's blessed the world with his talent. It's funny, like I was saying, we both are capable of making fully functional, hopefully museum quality swords, but I'm in this funny kick where it's like, I want to film some content with you, some educational content for our YouTube and our Instagram. But selfishly, I just want to be like, teach me how to grind an aluminum blade so I can make my son the coolest aluminum sword ever. Whereas I'm sure most people would rather learn about real stuff. So we'll figure out what we're going to film today. I definitely want to forge some pattern welded stuff. I want to forge an axe with you. But yeah, to kind of cap it up, I'm sure we're way over time. We usually do, because then I could geek out with you all day over like the nitpicky little technical stuff.
This is just the part we recorded.
Yeah, I can't believe this is my job. It's fun. Dude, my gosh, thank you so much for sharing all those details. I selfishly want to geek out all day and just ask you technical questions about how to like age and patina aluminum and, do whatever crazy stuff with spring steel that you and Peter do.
Make it up as you go.
Just make it up. But no, to wrap it up, I would really love, everything you've shared is, I'm sure, going to give so much fun and value to those who are listening. But, I would imagine a lot of our listeners are, young guys or gals, men and women who are maybe hobbyists or full-time. I would imagine a lot of people listening, hopefully tuning in, especially if they found this on YouTube, might have never swung a hammer or made a blade. And so for any of those folks, I guess a question I'd love to cap it with is like, what kind of value, what kind of advice could you give to somebody, young or old, if they want to just change career paths and shift into a more creative field? I mean, there's not many WETA workshops in the world. But if somebody has the desire to really take a big leap, both physically and career-wise, and find themselves working in a creative environment like WETA, what would they do? It sounds like step one is maybe go to Comic-Con and help people tear down,
That was not step one for me. Step one is just get started.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter where. Mm-hmm. Like, your origin story, though important later on in life, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like,
if you just pick up a tool and modify something with it.
Yeah.
Without hurting anybody else.
Yes.
Please. The sky's the limit, right? We are tool users, tool using apes. Mm-hmm. Pick up a tool, do a thing, make a tool if you don't have a tool. That goes for anyone. Like, it's always inspiring, and a lot of the work that I've done and been able to contribute to screen isn't my work alone. Like, it's an incredible collaboration between insane amount of creatives.
Yeah.
People that go, I can't do things for real, I can only draw. It's like, no, that clearly means you can do something. Yeah. Like, you are getting your creativity out. Mm-hmm. And the most important step in manufacturing is design. Mm-hmm. Like, the design department is one of many around the world. Like, there are people delivering movies outside of WETA Workshop.
Yeah.
There are people designing things that we will eventually make, or that they will make other places. And honestly, it's just getting a handle. It doesn't really matter where you start, because once you've started somewhere, and this kind of goes for when I moved across the world or go anywhere. It's like, if you have a point of reference, then you can reference everything to that point. If you just don't know where to get started, and all you're doing is watching stuff on YouTube and thinking that creates a environment for you to just go out and get the best things and know what you're doing. It's like, no, you still need to take the hours, take the time to let your body know you know how to do it, not just your brain.
That's a huge lesson right there. I mean, that doesn't stop. I mean, I'm in that right now. It's like I'm wanting to learn new skills like resin printing and 3D sculpting on iPad.
Yeah.
And obviously you got to watch a few YouTube videos. You got to get the base knowledge, but at a certain point you can watch too much, and you just got to do it.
Well, watching the YouTube videos, getting the skills is your starting point of reference. Then you can reference back to what, listening to somebody who knows what they're talking about, going, oh, that's why I made a mistake, 'cause I didn't listen to this part, but now it makes more sense because I gave it a go. And that's the main thing for anybody. It's like, you can train people from nothing, but it's better if they have a point of reference. And the farther you get back from a project or a situation, the larger your perspective is. Like, with distance, you get perspective. And so having a starting point and then trying something completely new, you can tell that there's ground between those two things. And like, I guess if I were to talk about gaining new skills, that in itself is a skill. And that's about the only thing I've ever been good at.
Yeah.
Not particularly great at any one thing.
Well, like I said at the outset, you're a master swordsmith, whether you like it or not.
No, I am good at being adaptable.
Sure.
And part of that is adapting creativity. Whether it's working with my friends on what we call art therapy projects, stuff
dude,
we're
yes.
allowed to actually share with the world, because most of the stuff I make, I'm never allowed to talk about.
Yeah.
Most of the collaborations that Peter and I do are just work. Mm-hmm. But occasionally we go, let's just step outside of work and just make some art.
That's awesome.
Like those two swords, the sculpture that I made with some friends over the Christmas break. That was really good mentally for both myself and Cassie, because we were involved in a car accident earlier in the year, and we were dealing with concussions. And this was a way that we could be creative when we weren't allowed to work.
Yeah.
And this was an invitation for everyone to just come together with my friend Kim and Warren Beaton, who developed this sculpting material, Paltaya, that is a permanent outdoor sculpting material. And we're just like, well, we should just make some art. We were sitting in my living room, and across the street was where your inspiration starts. Here's where mine started for this one, was across the street there was a leaking water main that kind of dug a little bit of a hole, but kind of 2-hand size, and all the birds loved it. It was just a permanent bird bath that was burbling away for about 3.5 weeks. And it was like, eventually they're going to come over and fix that pipe, and all the birds are going to be sad. Aww. So we should make a bird bath for Christmas holiday break. And it was, okay, what's the coolest bird bath we can think of? And it was
movie level.
We could do, we could do like a turning water wheel, maybe some moving parts would be fun.
Yeah.
A little derelict like cottage on the side, little river with a little bit of a pond at the bottom. That would be fun. Or we could do the flat earth. Terry Pratchett's Discworld, elephants, turtles all the way down. And so we just decided to do that. And we did it in a really dynamic way where the great Atuan, which is the world turtle, is like banking through space. And all of the elephants are in a very different pose because they're having to compensate for Atuan on a crazy angle.
Love that. So beautiful. My gosh.
Yeah,
and
so I'll finish that when I get back to New Zealand.
Okay.
We haven't painted the turtles and stuff. But like as an example, that was a bunch of people getting together, volunteering their time. And like if we sell the thing, everybody gets paid. We've tracked all the hours and stuff. But it was, let's get together and hang out and at our speed, because like recovering from a concussion is no joke. And it's very frustrating and boring, but having a good support system around us and just the ability to be creative without pressures, times, or art direction or any of that stuff. It's just like we made 2 rules at the outset. Nobody's in charge, and whoever shows up makes the decisions. You show up if you've got the spoons to show up. Everybody showed up one night, and we were all just like, I'm not feeling it. Should we just go for a walk? So we just went for a walk. That's and another night we were like, we kind of got that done pretty early. It would be really ambitious to get this next step done, but we'll probably end up staying pretty late. Should we just go hide a mushroom fairy house in the woods? So that's what we did that night. And that's the level of art that a lot of people get introduced into. And like, honestly, I have to fall back on just purposefully for the mental side of, I need to get my creativity out, and I need to do it in a way that I'm not pressured to try to, financially gain from it and pay my bills with it. I need to make art. Yes, that's huge. I mean, I find that now, with the guys here at Cole blessing me with the opportunity to do, my creative work in a way that serves the business. It's fun, but you got to have those mental health, Chloe and I and my girlfriend call it soul nourishing projects that are just fun and art for art's sake, like you said. Yep. And so that's such good advice, brother. I guess last thing I want to ask is like, what do you, obviously you got, always with the day job at WETA, big, cool, fun projects that everybody's interested in. You can't talk about those, but what are you personally, what are some big projects that you're stoked about that you want to do, get into, or not even just beyond projects, just things in life that you're looking forward to? So Peter Lyon and I are probably going to do some more collaboration work, stuff that we can post outside of at WETA, and that'll be fun to do, collaborate on a design and just be like, let's just make cool swords. Like, let's do it, because just waiting for the perfect movie to come along, it takes a long time. And I mean, a lot of work is like, you step back and there's some really cool projects, but a lot of it's just, you're just welding up armatures for whatever. It just keeps you busy. You got to install a new wall and a new extraction system, and it's just good work, but not necessarily the big sexy stuff that everyone sees. And so, just keep your skills up, keep busy. And for me, like those types of projects, like the sculpting with Kim is just a pleasure. Like she is the most positive person ever.
And I was going to say, please plug, advertise her website, because I want to get some of that material to play with.
Absolutely.
Where do people go to find her?
Paltiya, Paltiya, is the name of the company. It's available in the UK and the US.
Cool.
Obviously, they live in New Zealand, but they developed it, and it's a permanent outdoor sculpting material.
Gosh.
And I just absolutely love it. Like there's several things sculpted out of it at the zoo. We've done crazy monolithic sculptures. Both Kim and Warren work at WETA Workshop in the tour space on stage. So when people come through, they'll actually talk to Warren about sculpting. And again, you don't have to start with this material. All of this is sculpted on top of aluminum foil balls.
That's great.
Just the same thing. Most of the sculpting tools are just forks.
Yeah.
Like it's really low barrier to entry, but you don't even need to start with this stuff. You can just start sculpting like it's clay with just foil. Just go buy a bunch of rolls of foil. You don't make it like super dense. You leave a lot of air in it so you can then push it and just hot glue the things together. And that's how we.
And is it just air dry? Like over time? Wow.
You want to keep it wet like cement so you can get the full crystal growth in the grain structure of the material itself. Okay. And then it becomes incredibly strong. Wow. And we've used it on all kinds of films just because it's there and available, and Richard loves it. We've done lots of outdoor sculptures with it. Kim's sculpted all kinds of things. Like I said, at the zoo, there's a big dragon at the Wellington Zoo, and now there's a big snow leopard there because we just got snow leopards at the zoo.
Yeah.
So they wanted a snow leopard sculpture, so she made that. And,
that's cool.
It's just one of these things of Kim's been sculpting forever, and she is one of the coolest places. Yeah, that's that little house at the bottom. Her and my friend Steven went and sculpted that and then hid it in the forest on one of the walks near our house. And I went and took those pictures because I was like, that was when everybody was in lockdown and in their own bubbles and stuff. Yeah. And so just have to make art and go just hide it in the woods.
Yes.
And so I was like, tell me kind of what trail it's on. I want to go find it.
That's awesome.
And then I will photograph it for you. And then we, didn't break bubbles and anything. It's great.
That's so cool.
I forged a bit of rebar for them for that sculpture because they wanted to like cement it in place so somebody couldn't walk off with it or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, that was a fun one. And just shotgun art for art's sake, like it's just so satisfying.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of friends I like to hang out with, and those are the kinds of friends I encourage people to become. It's like, if you're into a craft already, invite other people in.
Yes.
Teach them that health and safety is important to get started, but just let them modify things. Like the first time I hit a hot piece of metal with a hammer, it was like, oh, well, I could get used to that.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
And that happens every day. Like people running classes and stuff. It's just providing those opportunities that like everyday life doesn't provide. Yeah. And so look for classes, look online of how to get started. And honestly, it doesn't matter how to get started. Just do it.
Exactly.
It's hard. It's simple though. It's not easy, but it's simple. Just get started.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, brother. Not to be salesy, but that's why we started the Cole School of Iron here in Anderson, and not everybody can come, and that's okay. We're going to try to offer as many classes as we can. But yeah, like
just the work you're putting out online helps so much. I mean, you invited me here.
Well, I mean, bro, I'm not just blowing smoke and trying to be complimentary to be nice. I truly mean it. It's surreal and meaningful. I was telling Chloe last night, deeply, almost spiritually meaningful, and so cool to truly call you a friend and connect with you. And have somebody come from WETA, because it really did have a huge impact. All the team there that you work with every day, just random Joe Schmo people to you, just like, oh, there's whoever, But to us, little Andy and David in the middle of cornfields of Indiana, just seeing people across the globe do creative, fun, collaborative work was so impactful to us. So please go home and tell them all that they definitely had an impact on this company probably coming into existence. And, I'm sure Andy's looking down with joy and excitement, that you're here, and, I'm sure he would love it. So thank you for coming here and being a warm, positive soul to share your knowledge. And let's go forward. Let's go annoy everybody with loud, noisy power tools over there.
Love it. That's my jam.
Can't wait to create some content and inspire more people with you, brother.
Thank you, David.
So thank you, brother. Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Adios.
That was awesome. Best podcast ever. Love it. Oh, so good. Well, I'm going to clip many clips out of that and share it on the Cole feed.